Hey everyone, my name is Nick Wong. I'm 25 years old. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and today I'm going to be talking about a story of when I realized that I had anxiety and I need to take control of that. Just a little background story of how I decided that, hey, I actually have anxiety. So this was back in 2023 in my first engineering job out of college. And at the time, I was not happy with the job I had. I was already actively looking for a new job, but I was still sticking it out until I found one. Throughout the summer of 2023, I was balancing between 45 different projects that had very hard deadlines. And if I didn't meet a deadline, I have to explain reasons why I didn't meet it and why I needed more time. And that happened quite often because, as you know, if you're planning a big, long project, you're going to end up pushing out deadlines because that's usually what happens. You find out different things, nuances throughout the project that you're working on, and you find that you actually need more time than needed. All of these projects, on top of balancing my day-to-day activities, balancing production floor activities, and making sure the machine is up and running of my responsibilities, my department, etc., and all that combined really burnt me out and added more and more stress and anxiety onto myself. But at the time, I didn't think it was anxiety. I thought it was just your average stress as a manufacturing engineer. After I had completed all of my projects, and by this time it was the end of August, I had the free time to kind of chill, relax, and just worry about my day-to-day activities. But 2 weeks passed, and I was not given any new work, any new projects by my boss, and I started to grow worrisome and stressed out because all of my other coworkers had so many things on their plate, while mine was able to get some more things on my plate, and I wasn't giving anything at all. And I started to get in my head and worry that, hey, maybe my boss does not like me anymore because of some of the mistakes I made on the projects, but I was able to recoup my losses, and I was able to pivot and make sure that the project is completed in a timely manner and finished at standards that we have. But I felt like my boss was trying to quiet fire me and wanted me to quit on my own terms instead of him firing me. So around late September to beginning of August, my boss wanted to have morning meetings every single morning with the team, and we would just go around in a circle in his office, doors closed, to just give a brief update on what we were working on and where the progress is on our projects. And like I said before, at the time, I didn't have really much going on. So I was really stressed out about like, what am I supposed to present and talk about if I don't have anything to present and talk about? My solution to this was to spend all morning up until the meeting to figure out what exactly I should think and present during these meetings. And I would just come up with a bunch of random things in the morning and work on it and then talk about that. I'll be honest with you, it did not feel good at all to have nothing going on, nothing that would actually move the needle or make some type of progress for the factory while all my other coworkers were working on something that big. And I started to feel really stressed out. And at the time, I thought, it's just stress. It's just normal stress. It's not anxiety. But I'll tell you what happened after this. There was one specific morning meeting that we had, and it was my turn to speak. So I started speaking, started talking about the things I was working on, what progress it was at. And my boss asked me a question. It was a fairly simple question, and I knew that. And for some reason, I could not put together a coherent response to his question. And I just started stumbling. I started stuttering. I just could not speak the right way. And my brain was locked up. I just could not speak at all. I didn't make any sense at all, right? And I felt the lock in my head. I felt the lock in my mouth. I felt, my heart pumping so fast. I felt my face get red. I just did not feel confident in that exact moment. Go through everyone else, and the meeting ends, and I go back to my cubicle and I sit down on my chair, and I'm just in shock of what just happened. I started to really reflect about how I felt emotionally and mentally in that moment, and that's when I realized that I have anxiety. Reflecting back of how I was raised as a child and how I raised myself, throughout college and even early adulthood, I started to realize that I did not want to come to terms that I had anxiety. I didn't want to admit to it because I felt there was shame behind that. And the reason I felt shame behind that is when you are raised by Asian parents who were immigrants, they do not believe of this sort of, mental disorder. They don't believe in ADHD, they don't believe in this or that, they don't believe in anxiety, whatever, right? And I never had that talk with my parents about, hey, if you ever think that you have this, if you ever have a rough time going through something like that's X, Y, and Z, I want you to come and talk to me about it and we can have a discussion about it. I never had that open conversation with my parents about it. And so I grew up thinking, I didn't have anything at all. I was, in a sense, perfect. And I know, growing older that, no one is perfect. Everyone has something. Even me, I have anxiety. I'm not perfect, and that's okay. But I grew up realizing that, this is something that is should be ashamed about. This should be something that is looked down upon if you ever admit to it, if you ever have it. And I just withheld all of my emotions and feelings growing up. Once I did come to terms that I had anxiety and I owned up to it, I started doing a lot of research of what are some things that I can take to kind of reduce and control my anxiety. And the thing is, I didn't want to take something that I would rely on to control my anxiety. I wanted to figure out the root cause, why it was happening, where it was coming from, and finding out ways that I can handle my anxiety in any given moment. I did eventually find a therapist and went to therapy, and my therapist at the time was an intern, so I only had it for about 45 months. But I took those months seriously because I wanted to find out the root cause of my anxiety. I wanted to understand myself better. You know what I mean? And so I really spent the time, I really spent the days just thinking about how can I overcome my anxiety in any given moment? What are some tools that I need? What am I looking for in therapy? So every therapy session that I had, we would go through the things that I was told to work on, basically homework essentially. And I just really valued the time I spent in therapy. I really valued those 4 to 5 months that I had with my therapist. She was awesome. She was great, and it made my experience with therapy a lot better than what everyone else makes it out to be. And I highly encourage anyone who is going through these same exact thoughts or situations to just try your luck at therapy, and take it seriously, because if you don't take it seriously and you're going to therapy, it's not going to work for you. I will say though, I am not a professional at my anxiety. I have not mastered it completely, but it is something that I'm mastering every single day. It's a continuous improvement. It'll always be a continuous improvement for the rest of my life. But what I can do each and every day is to be more self-aware and acknowledge about my own feelings and thoughts, and just tell myself, hey, it's okay to feel this way, but is it rational or irrational thinking? Learning about yourself and your own emotions and how to deal with it is a whole lifelong process that will never end until the day you die. But what I can tell you is the most important is the first step that you take to understanding and learning more about yourself. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you want to hear more content from me.